Hi guys, welcome to another tutorial. My name is Rui Souza. I'm one of the founders of the AI Break, and in this video I want to share with you guys the Make.com new AI agent, what everybody's talking about. This little module here on the middle, and today I just want to give you a quick basic walkthrough on what an AI agent is on Make and how you can create them and how they actually are really, really powerful. And again, they are still improving. If you don't know, there is also another platform that already have AI agents where we actually use a lot, which is NA10. So if you don't know this platform here, this is basically the platform we use for AI agents, which is basically, as you can see here, this was like the one of the first ones, and it's still pretty good. It's the one that we use the most, matching with Make.com. But the main difference with AI agents now, which is like a super exciting time to actually be on Make.com, is that we used to have these two platforms and like joining them together with workflows, from NN8 to Make to NN8. And basically the main difference with AI agents that everybody talks about is that he knows what tools to use. Basically, you give him a lot of tools, and it's more like a conversational kind of way. So Make.com until really pretty recently, before the AI agent, was a linear automation. So basically, there was a trigger, all the automation workflow until an output. And with NA10 was this actually AI agent, what was everybody was hyped about, and everybody shift from Make to NA8 if you check on YouTube because of the AI agents. Why? Because it was more on a conversational way, which means you can be talking to like a Slack channel and say, hey, what are my events for tomorrow? And the AI agent will know that they actually have a tool to search on the calendar. So he will use whatever tools you give to him. So if you give like Gmail, Google Calendar, for example, then you can ask them whatever you want, like send me an email to this person, check my calendar, and then send an email. So he will use the tools according what they want. And now makes us that kind of similarity with their own AI agents. And I'm assuming every single platform of automation will have AI agents. And again, just a quick note, Make is still not super perfect compared to NA10. We still use NA10 for majority for AI agents, but it's really exciting to see AI agents on Make. And they are a really big company, so I'm assuming that they will catch up pretty quickly on all the other platforms. So this is really cool, guys, because you can just use one platform instead of having so many different platforms for your own business and your own automation. So let me just break down a little bit like this simple way to use AI agents again, and then you can go more complex. But I just want to have you a quick overview of what AI agents are. And today I want to give you a quick assistant on Slack that can search events on your calendar. Again, there is so much things you can do, but I just want to go through like the basic stuff on actually implementing one agent. So basically, as you can see here on Make.com, you now have an AI agent tab on the left side, which will allow you to configure it, and we'll go there in a second to configure the agents, and you can see all of them listed there. But basically, here is a super simple, and I did some testings before this video just to see if everything was clean, because again, as I told you, we use mostly NA10 for our AI agents, but this is real simple. So you watch a message on a Slack channel that I just used for an example, and basically then you will use the Make AI agent to search my calendar event for events, and then it will reply me back if I have events on what dates, whatever I write on Slack. The main purpose of these agents is to check if I have events, okay? And then we can add more, but again, for this purpose, I just want to show. So basically, what I did was, you have what we call the main workflow, where you have like the kind of AI agent, and then you need to have what we call, the workflows that he calls, so like the tools that he will call to actually gather the information. So in this case, I created a separate workflow, which is basically Google Calendar. So basically what happens is that agent on this workflow will call this tool to search the event, and then this returns the output, and he gives me the answer. So you always need to create what we call the tool. So for example, imagine that I want to add also send emails. I need to create a workflow first, and then in here you see that you can actually choose the tools to use for the search event. So for this agent, so I can add more tools and just select the tools that I want for the different workflows that I created previously. Okay, so let's start with again this example. I want to create an agent that search for my events every time I ask him on Slack. For example, if I ask him like what events I have tomorrow, he can go to my calendar and search for it. Okay, so the first things first, what we will do is we will create these. We can just have like a Slack or a Telegram, wherever you want. So I just created a watch private channel trigger. And basically, I just select like a completely random. We don't use this channel anymore, which is Content AI Break. We don't have this one anymore. And I just use a limit of one because I want him to reply to each message that I sent to him. So it's pretty basic, just a watch private channel. So every time there is a new message, he will check and he will trigger. Okay. Then I added the Make AI agent. So if you go to the plus sign and you search for Make AI agent, it's this one here, and it says Run an agent. That's the only action they have. And as you can see here, this is a little bit more complex, but after you get used to it, it's really straightforward. And again, as we are used to do it on NA10, it's pretty similar to the other platforms. So basically, when you open up the agent, you can see that you can choose or create a new agent. Okay. I just create this one for testing purpose, but you can just create an agent, click here, and then you can create the entire agent. And basically what you need to say is that you need to have a connection. At the moment, what we have is OpenAI. So I just selected OpenAI here again. On NA10, you can use Open Router. I don't have a kind of like a, it doesn't appear here our Open Router connection yet, but again, this is pretty new. So I think in the next couple of days, you'll pretty much be robust and like equal to NA10. But we just have a Open API account. So I just select my OpenAI API account, and then I just give it a name, customer service agent. You can give whatever name you want. And then I choose a module. I choose the 4.0 mini, which is cheaper, but it's just for the purpose of this test here. And then you need to basically tell them what they are. Okay, so basically I'll show you what I did with this agent, which we can go to the configuration. So if I click here on the agent, he will open up that tab on the left that I told you, which says AI agents here. Okay, and then you will have all the assistants. Basically here we just have one. Again, as I said, we use NA10, but we'll probably be passing a lot of them to make.com because we have most of our scenarios on make.com. But basically if I click here on the AI agent, you see here that I just wrote act as my personal assistant. Your task is to check events in my calendar and add or remove new events there. So, but basically we will be using this action here with these check events because that's the workflow that I have, is to search for events. So basically I just put this here as like the big system prompt. Okay. And as you can see here, if you go here on the left side, I just want to explain you this really quickly. So the agent settings, again, the provider is OpenAI. The name, you can change the name here, you can change the module. And these little three things here is basically, so the max output token is basically one thing that happens a lot in AI agents is that sometimes when you send an output, that output also triggers again the AI agent. So sometimes if you are not careful, the AI agent can just trigger non-stop the automation because you talk to the agent and then you don't put like some filters on it, and then you can just loop in the entire agent. And this is really important for you to have a max output tokens because you can easily spend your entire API limits and pay a kind of a really bunch of money if you don't have output max tokens. And in this case, we have these 100,000. You can put it less. But so if you are just starting out, what happens is that if it's too big, the automation, or too big the task, he will not run, you give an error. But this is really important for you to have limits. The recursion limit is basically kind of a leveraged, limited way to run the automation. Sometimes it's just run again over and over. These two are pretty similar. One is just for the tokens, which can be like the size of the task. But the recursion limit is pretty much the same as how much it runs until it stops. Again, this is standard for make.com, so you can leave it like this. And the last one is a little bit like NA10, which is the historical part of the mesh, so the memory side. In NA8, you have like a memory little module that you can just choose how many, in this case, for example, using Slack, is how many messages you can remember previously. And in this case, I'm saying 10. Again, I don't want to put too much because I don't want to remember stuff that I talk on Slack like 2 months ago, which may not make sense right now for the tasks. But at least 10, 5 messages before is really important, really helpful, because you can just remember what you're talking about and just make the task even better or more efficiently. So I'll normally put 10. You can leave it like this and click save. Okay, and basically we create our assistant. Okay, now what we will do is I'll go back here. So I just choose the assistant that you created. Okay, and basically now again we will just leave this a little bit for the end because we need to go and just create the other workflow. In order for you to add the tool here, you just select the scenario here with the same name. But basically, there's a couple of things here you need to do. Okay, so the thread ID is basically the message ID. So this is going to be the Telegram ID message, the client message ID. So on Slack, you see here, it is last one here, client message ID. So basically, it's the thread that the message is in. So in order for him to remember the conversation. Okay, so we just added the client message ID. Again, on Telegram, it will be Telegram channel ID. So it remembers the channel. Okay, and then as you can see here, I added some additional system instruction that I will show you in a second, but I just want to give you like an overall. So basically, it's just additional system instruction where you normally put what are the tools and what type of tools he has available in order to produce the task. In this case, he only has one tool, which is called Search Calendar. That's the only tool. But I'll go to the events in a second for you to actually make sense this stuff here. And then the message is just here is the message, and I grab the text from Slack so you can know what was the text in order to provide the task. Okay, so I just drag and drop the text, and normally you just need to put this here is the message, because then you have all the tools and all these additional instructions to actually run everything. Okay, so basically that's kind of like the fields that you need to put in, which is a thread ID for memory, the additional system instruction where you actually put what tools the assistant is available. So imagine that you have like 10 tools here. You need to put this tool, the tool one called this is for this, tool two, tool three. So you always put all the items in here. Okay, the message you can always just put like most of the times we put like this. Here is the message and the text, and then this little thing here, guys, says continue scenario run while agent is working. So basically, what happened is if the agent takes more than 3 minutes to make the task, it will continue the automation. To be honest, I don't think any value or any scenario in my head that this will make sense to put yes. So always put no. You want him to run the task until he actually makes the task. So it doesn't make too much sense to have this, but probably there will be like a use case for this to, if he doesn't run the task, he continues, but just put no. Okay, and again, that's pretty much the AI agent. So you have the additional tools and all the information. So let me just save here, and then what you do after the agent is creating the task, I just open a Slack message that says create message, and basically what you always most of the times you'll do is you just grab this response here, which is the response to the task he made. Okay, and normally just grab these, and again I just put it for the same channel to reply to me on the same channel. Okay, so it's pretty much this is kind of the flow, pretty simple. Just have an agent here with the tool search events from a watch private message to create one. Okay, so this is already pre-made. I just want to go back and just told you and show you what we created here on Google Calendar. So we created a search event workflow, which is basically pretty simple. Most of the times you just need this module. Okay, which is I just put it like a module, which is Google search events, and basically I choose my calendar, and this start date and end date will be empty. Okay, because how do you know? You have to be dynamic, right? If you want to ask him like what events I have tomorrow or next Friday, these need to be dynamic. So you don't put anything here. I'll show you how to create these dynamically inputs and output. This is something that for the linear you don't use too much, but for the agents it's something that you need to start using, which is this setting here on the bottom, which is setting up scenario inputs and outputs. So this is more important for AI agents than it was to create a normal workflow. Okay, so basically this will be empty. Okay, I just created like this. I put it in my calendar ID, and I went down. I just created single events, yes, because I just want those events for now, but you can put no and be recurring. And then I select all the events types. I want all the events. And I didn't put an order, and I put a limit of 10. You can put more or less depending on the volume you have on your calendar. But basically, that's the search event. So most of the time, this will be enough. And you can run only this. And you just go back here and you select. Now I'll select the search events. So I'll select the search events one, which was the one that I select there. Search events. Let me just close. And that's pretty much it. As you can see, this is active. Okay. And most of the time this will run, guys. And it will be really good. The only thing I want to show is that when I tried to run like this, just the calendar event alone, it gave me an error saying there is no event for tomorrow, which is false because I have events for tomorrow. I have two events tomorrow. Okay, so basically I had to basically add these aggregators to aggregate the data, but most of the times this will be enough. You just put the Google Calendar search and he will search for the events. Only if it gives you an error, sometimes you need to just aggregate, basically just aggregate the data on an array, aggregate all the data for, like, imagine that you have bundles, right? All the bundles have connect collections inside and you need to grab all the information. So basically imagine that you have a bundle is one event, the other one is another event. I just aggregate everything in one array, and basically I now send the entire array to the agent as an output. Okay, that's the only thing, but you can try just with this one. Okay, so let's continue on this one. So now you have this empty, right? You need to find the start date and end date in order for him to search an event. So what I did was, you always come here on the scenario inputs, and you have scenario inputs and scenario outputs. So then in scenario inputs, what I did was I created a start date and an end date. And if I open up, you can see here the start date should look at events after this time. Okay, so if I say tomorrow, he will start tomorrow morning at the first hour, and he will look for events after that first hour of the starting date. Okay, the type is text, is required because I really need this in order to search events. So I really need an end date and a start date. So it's pretty simple. You just should look at events after this time. And the end date is pretty similar. It just says should look at events before this time. Okay, so basically, if it's tomorrow, he will search after the first hour and before the last hour of tomorrow. Okay, and it's the same thing as the text is required, and that's pretty much what I need as an input. Okay, and then when you create these and you save these pre-made inputs that you made, you can come to Google Calendar, and then if you open up this here, if you go to this symbol here, you see that is my inputs that I just created. So I can drag the start date and I can drag the end date. So this is really important for AI agents now, guys, because we will be creating some inputs in order for him to know what dynamic can use. So the AI agent, he will know what will be the start date and now what will be the end date. I will show in a second because I give instructions for him to always grab this information. And it has to be dynamic, right, in order to run. So that's how this is really important. And you can grab them here on this symbol, the start date and the end date. And now it's pretty much done on here on the Google Calendar event. Okay, so basically now when this is all just pretty much ready, okay, the last thing you need to do is that, as you always remember, this is normally like a timer, right? Like it search for 5 intervals of 5 minutes once a day. You know, that little clock here, you need to click on it and you need to always choose on demand. Okay, so as you probably as you know, the AI agent, when you're talking to the agent, he needs to be able to grab the information from the other workflow, right? So you cannot just say, okay, I just need to wait 10 minutes for this to run, or if you put it like once a day, okay, I need to wait until 9 a.m. tomorrow to run it. You don't want that, right? So when you have specific workflows for the AI agent that is picking up, you always need to put on demand, so the AI agent knows when you have to pick up this workflow, or if they are triggered immediately, you can also use them. Okay, like a webhook, for example, which is immediately, and so on, right? So I'll put on demand and you click save, and now you can turn on and you can save it. Okay, and this is only be triggered with on demand of the AI agent. Okay, so now that we have the end dates dynamically, let's go back to the agent, and now let's finish up with the instructions of these agents. So basically, as I told you, we have the additional tool, search event, the thread ID for the message and all the stuff. And now let's look here a little bit of the instructions. Okay, so basically what I said was, you are a professional personal assistant and your task is to help the user with his tasks. Tools, again, as I told you, this is really important for the tools. So the tools, the only one that we have, which is one, is the search calendar, which is basically this one here. You can even put search events because it's the same name, but he will trigger either way. So search calendar, and then I tell them what it's all about. So find calendar event for the user. Make sure to find the event after the start date and before the end date. Okay, same thing for the dynamic fields that I have. If you cannot find an end date, add 1 day after the start date. Okay, so as you can see, this is always important. You can also say had 24 hours after the start date, because basically what happened is if you can only find, and I will tell you why he always knows the start date. Why? Because I put always this. Today is, and the now is a function that you find here on the calendar symbol, which is now, which is basically always give him the exact time that is running. So he always know the start date, right? So it's pretty simple. He always know the start date. If I don't give him on the text what is the end date, he will always add 1 day. And again, you can change this for always add 24 hours, always add 48 hours, always add 5 days in advance, whatever you want. He needs to know the start date and the end date in order to run the other workflow. Okay, and that's why I put it today is, and this is just the date you can find on the dynamic calendar here. And that's pretty much it, guys. So we have the full instructions of the tools. We have the tool connected, which is active. We have the message IDs, and we have the message, which is here is the message on Slack. And that's pretty much it. And we put it no. And that's it, guys. Now you have, I'll put it save. Now you have kind of a super basic agent running in Slack. Okay. And again, if I go here and I will just choose where to start because now it's not active, but I'll choose manually the conversation. And you can see here, I'll open up for you guys. I already made a test here. I said what events I have in my calendar tomorrow. And it says, you have the following events scheduled for tomorrow, April 23rd. So actually remember, the date is correct, right? Because today is the 22nd. So you're actually correct. And I have 2 events for tomorrow. So it's actually correct. Okay, this was the error that I put it here because of that little thing of the aggregator if it doesn't work. But now I can put it again, what events I have in my calendar again. I'll just put it here again. I'll just click here. And let me just choose manually again, choose where to start. And then he will pick up my message, what event I have on my calendar. And then I click run once. And now, as you can see, it's running the agent. Now he's grabbing the other workflow and he will reply to me with a Slack message. Okay. So let's see. Boom. He sent me a message. Let's see. And here it is, guys. You have the following events in your calendar for tomorrow, April. Google, and I have a live event as well for tomorrow, a live webinar for Market Makers Live. And that's it, guys. Now you can actually continue to talk with them. And again, you can actually add more tools. Now I can add a workflow that create events. So pretty basic. I can just come on this one, duplicate or create another scenario that says instead of search event is creating events on the calendar. And then I just come here and now we'll add that tool as a second one, which is created event. And I come here to the tools and I just have to grab 2 and say the create calendar, which is the second tool. It says use this to create new events on the user's calendar. And that's it, guys. And you have a second tool. And now on Slack, I can now, for example, ask them, okay, just add an event for tomorrow, 9 p.m., have a dinner with a friend. And he will create the event with that and probably reply to me saying, hey, I just created the event on your calendar. And that's pretty much the hit about the agent. Again, guys, this is super basic. There is so many things you can do. There is so many tools that you can add here. And that's endless, basically, the options that you can do with the agent. But again, it's a little bit tricky on the beginning because, at least for myself as well, the NA10 is slightly different, the platform and how to use them. And again, make.com still have a little bit of bugs. For example, one thing that happens a lot, people are saying, is that sometimes when you save this scenario and you go to here to the configuration, as you can see now, it deletes automatically the description. This is a bug. I think they are fixing it, but I need to say again, call this tool to search calendar events. Okay, he actually was able to do it either way because I only have one tool, but imagine that you have like 5 or 10 tools. That probably be a mistake for the agent. So you always need to come here and save again, which is kind of annoying, but is a problem that everybody's talking about, and I'm assuming make.com will fix pretty soon. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys, about the AI agent. Again, I hope it was kind of simple to understand. I know that it is only with practice you'll be able to create more and more agents, but this is kind of the future, guys. So every platform, as I said, NA10, it's even more complex than this. So I'm really excited to have this on Make because Make it's way easier to connect apps, and we actually been doing a lot of like linear workflows. And now you can have the AI agent step to have more of these conversational stuff. Like, for example, inside of Slack, we have a lot of AI agents, like AI agents to customer support, to check ads, to make content. And now you can actually send them or at least transfer them to Make. So we will be playing around a lot with Make AI agents this couple of next weeks and next month, and I'm really excited to have this again. There is still a little bit of bugs, but yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope we enjoyed this video, and all the information will be right down below this video. If you're not on our automation community, there will be a link down below if you have more automations and more stuff about saving time and money using automations to your business. So if you like it, just check the links below. If you are on our community, you can comment all the questions you have about this, and we'll be creating more videos about AI agents really, really soon. So stay connected, and I hope to see you on the next video.